So how many of us have friends or family who, when they find out that we attend something called the Center for Spiritual Living, ask, what do you people believe? And what's our answer? So we could say something like, we teach and practice something called the science of mind, which Ernest Holmes said was made up of the discoveries of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of religion applied to the needs and aspiration of humankind. Now, I think if we said that, there'd be a lot of eyes that will be rolling back and people maybe giving us a look like we have three heads. So how else can we explain it? So did you know that in 1927, Ernest Holmes published his Declaration of Principles of Science of Mind called What We Believe? And that's in your program that we've listed out. 13 powerful affirmations that form the basis of the principles of science of mind. Now, these principles were published in the first issue of the Science of Mind magazine. And it's important because, as we know from this teaching, what we believe affects our entire life. So choose wisely, guard carefully, and affirm passionately with purpose and presence. So what are these principles and what do they really mean? So the first one is, we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. What does that mean? Well, we know God is alive. Indeed, God is life. It's indestructible because to destroy something is to break it into pieces, and God is indivisible. That can't be done. God, as we know, is a complete whole in and of itself. God is absolute. God is not some power, but all power. Not some presence, but all presence. Not a God, but the God. What else? God is self-existent. It's not dependent on anything else. It already is the complete whole of who we are and what we are. It goes on to say, this one manifests itself in and through all creation, but it is not absorbed by its creation. So here God is called one, and the one expresses itself as its creation. It's the only place anything could ever have come from. If there is only one, everything must come from the one, right? And the universe is God's thought made manifest. We hear that a lot. And basically, what has been, what is, and what will ever been or be is always God's thought. Now, Buddha once said, all that is comes from the mind. It is based on the mind, and it is fashioned by the mind. First principle continues, the manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. You know, it does very little good to have ideas if they're not useful to us. So God doesn't think of things just for mental exercise. The creative law, that which creates everything in our existence, it goes to work turning those ideas into form and experiences, manifestations and demonstrations in our life. So we can say everything in the universe is a logical result of divine cause or first cause. Second principle is we believe in the individualization of the spirit in everyone, and that all people are individualizations of the one spirit. So what does individualization mean? What Ernest Holmes meant it to be is anything born of spirit, and anything means everything. As we know, everything starts and ends with spirit. Now, in later years, Holmes probably would have changed individualization of the spirit in everyone to individualization of the spirit as everyone. What is in us can only move through and as us. Again, if we start with the presence that there is only one life, then there can be nothing else we can expect to be in human form. So the third principle is we believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of individual soul forever and ever expanding. We know that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. This is the same amount of energy in the universe today as there were 1 million years ago, or as there will be 1 million years from now. Everything that ever was, everything that is, and everything that ever will be is made of the same energy. It can't be destroyed. It can only change form. So we can say with confidence that our real self, the divine conscious energy that we are, is immortal. It lives on forever. Our bodies, though, amazing as they are not designed to live forever yet. So good thing too, because just imagine if every tree, flower, dog, cat, and human that ever was still around. You think the world is crowded now. But the real self, that individual self, that invisible self, that can't be located by science, but whose existence is undeniable, the real self only survives, but is on an upward spiral of evolution. So, although our bodies may die, they're merely our earth suits. They're merely what we wear, what we are clothed with in this life that we call being human and right now. The true essence of who we are can never die. God is life, and that which is life cannot produce death. Ernest Holmes goes on with his fourth principle. We believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. So I'm sure we've all heard of the phrase, the statement, living heaven here on earth. So, but the traditional church conceived of heaven as an after-death definition. And it's odd. It doesn't really make sense when you remember that Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Well, if it's within you, it's not something you have to wait to get to. Jesus also said, look, see, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Which means the kingdom of heaven is right here, right now. It is happening within us and around us. In other words, we experience heaven in the degree that we are aware of it and we embody it. Now, all the good that we can possibly handle is available to us now if, and only if, we can believe and receive. If we can believe that it's within us and we allow ourselves to receive the abundance and the unconditional, limitless that is before us. You don't have to pass any test to access heaven, and sometimes, thank God. Well, there is one test, okay? Can we believe that good is ours? And if so, are we willing to accept it? Now, that may sound silly. Well, of course we accept it, right? There isn't any other answer. But do we really? If there is the slightest doubt in our minds that we are worthy of the highest and the best, we cannot and won't experience the highest and the best. Living heaven on earth here and now is a choice. And it's a choice that we have an opportunity to make every second of our day. We make hundreds of thousands of choices. Some of them are conscious and some of them are unconscious. And I would say to everyone that whatever the outcome of those choices, however we choose, is a direct relationship on how much or how little we experience heaven here on earth. Now, we can go to hell, but that's also not a place that we go to after death. For your convenience, hell is open 24/7, and you can go anytime you like, right? Now, it's like a 7-Eleven, which I never understood because a 7-Eleven is open 24/7, but that's for another story. You don't need a reservation, okay? Just show up and be guaranteed admittance. Stay as long as you like. You could leave anytime you like. There's no penalty for early withdrawal. But all of that is a choice. We can choose to be like, you know what? I don't really need anything that 7-Eleven has, though it has a lot. I have all the fuel I need within myself. I don't need to tank up, and I don't need anything that's inside there. I've got all the coffee I need, and I've got everything to fulfill myself. That's what living heaven on earth is that we already have whatever we need. And whatever may be something that we aspire to, then we know treatment, and we know that there are ways to change our thinking. Now, Ernest Holmes had no use for religion in which you had to wait until you die to get your reward. It's like having a frequent flyer card with all these points, and you can never redeem them on earth. You can accumulate them as all as you want, and you have all these things to buy, but sorry, you can't get them on earth. No, he didn't believe in that. He preached cause and effect. So what we think about brings about the cause, which has a necessary effect. And if you don't like the effect, what do? You change the cause. How do you change the cause? It's what you allow into your mind and what you believe. It's part of Ernest Holmes' point of creating his declaration of the 13 principles. And he taught and continues to teach us how to change the cause. That's within us. That's a choice that we can make, and nobody can make for us. They have their own cause to worry about. The only thing we have to worry about is our own. Ernest Holmes said that the earth, meaning our current world of experience, in heaven when seen rightly. What does that mean? So we look for our heaven here and now, knowing that when we seek, we shall find. The question is, what are we seeking? By living presently, by living in the here and now, not worrying about what happened in the past, not being concerned or having anxiety about what the future will bring, we can change any condition in our life by accepting and living heaven on earth right here and right now. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Doesn't that sound too good to be true? I don't believe in the whole adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't. I don't subscribe to that. But what Ernest Holmes is saying is, we shall ultimately be free of all discord, all trouble. Well, what does he know that maybe we don't? You know, there's an awful lot of discord and trouble these days, isn't there? And that just seems to be, we're surrounded and bombarded from it. No matter how much we stay off Facebook and the news, we can't somehow get away from it. But remember, we're immortal. And in the words of Holmes, as we ascend from a lower to a higher level, the limitations of the previous experience must drop from us. Let's examine that a little bit. In other words, life is meant to be a journey from the lower to the higher. And as we learn to better cooperate with the spiritual laws of the universe, we'll earn our freedom from disharmony of every kind. What's that mean? When we choose to live from, speak from, and act from a higher consciousness, a higher vibration, we can change the chaos we may be experiencing. All goes back to what we believe. What we believe creates what we think. And what we think is what we attract in our life. So if we don't like what we're attracting, go back to what we believe. And we focus on the belief that we are whole and we can change any circumstance, and we have the power to do so. We can move from that lower level of vibration that we may be feeling at the moment to the higher level that unites all of us. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. Every great religion from east to west has taught the spiritual concept of unity. The Ephesians said, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. So it's, we already possess that which is God. And the Upanishad said, the one God who is concealed in all beings, who is the inner soul of all beings, the ruler of all actions, all is the effect of one universal essence. Now, God is so vast and so enormous that sometimes we even can't comprehend or even imagine it. And yet, God is, in the words of scriptures, closer than hand and feet. It sounds like a dichotomy, that something that's so big and humongous, how can that be within us and so close to us that it's part of us? God is inside each of us. How could something so vast be inside little old me, maybe big old me? because I'm bigger on the inside than I am on the outside. Just think of that. Bigger on the inside than I am on the outside. The outside is just a physical manifestation of who we are. And each of us shows up differently, have different physical attributes. That's what makes us human. But I would say that all of us are bigger on the inside, and we all have the same DNA. We all have that within us that is God. Seventh principle, we believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. Now, each of us has our own personal experience with God, Spirit, our higher. It's how we feel it. And when we feel the presence of the divine within us, we unlock our direct connection to the one spirit, the one presence. The beauty of this thing that we call science of mind is we have an opportunity and a choice to connect to that one. And that one, although it is for all, we get to experience individually and personally in our own way. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. So I grew up in a religion in which revelations from God stopped 2,000 years ago. Once they wrote the Bible, that was it. You know, the truth was frozen in time. Nothing else happened after that. It reminds me, when I think of it, as an episode from a series I'm watching, Manifest, where things kind of got frozen in time. And if you look at it that way, there's no room for new insights. But it's kind of silly and absurd in a way to think that God revealed truth to humanity for a few centuries and then decided, I'm done. You guys can take it from here. And leave us to the mercy of what ancient people thought. Now, God is still in the inspiration business. Every one of us can experience God. We can all hear the still small voice, because God is experiencing life uniquely as each one of us. We receive the truth uniquely in terms that we can grasp at our own current level of awareness. Spirit always speaks to us. The challenge might be, are we listening? So each of us get to express and take in what God and Spirit has to offer us. And we get to take it in a way that makes sense for us. Holmes said, God is not a person, but an infinite presence filled with warmth, color, and responsiveness, immediately and intimately personal to each individual. We are all divine, but we don't all know it. And I'll be the first one to admit that. It's like a beggar dressed in rags and living in misery who has been left millions of dollars in a distant relative's will. If he knew what was his, he would claim it. Who wouldn't? So it is with us that fruit of what Spirit and the truth and whatever we call God is waiting to reveal through us. It's awaiting our understanding and our receptiveness to that. And it goes back to a mantra that our teaching speaks frequently, to awaken us to our spiritual magnificence. That is what living on earth is. That is what God, Spirit, the one, the divine presence wants for each and every one of us. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by the creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thoughts and acts upon it. So here is where Holmes starts moving from theory into the practical application of this teaching. Now, the ancient mystics knew that thoughts are things, thoughts become things, everything begins with a thought, and what we call matter is really energy. For centuries, materialistically minded people thought this was bunk. But thanks to Einstein, we know that this is true. As he professed, neither energy nor matter can be destroyed, but energy can become matter, and matter can become energy, because they are both manifestations of the same thing. Now, the ancient teachers know that what we think determines our experience of life, because everything begins with a thought. So our primary job in life is to learn how to think. To learn how to think is to learn how to live. And I'll take that one step further to understand what we believe has a direct impact on what we think, that we can only think that which we ultimately believe. So everything really begins with our belief. We believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this one mind. Now, in the early days of New Thought, medical science was very primitive, and it's come a long way since then. But people were eager for an alternative. There were a lot of things that weren't working back then, and people were hoping that there was something else, something better that could help them. And that changed after the introduction of wonder drugs. It's now easier to take an Advil than to do meditation and treatment to get rid of a headache. But when you pop a pill, the underlying cause is not dealt with. You're really just treating the symptoms. So that which is ailing you will probably come back when that wears off and it's time to take more leave. The basis of spiritual mind healing is God is all there is. God is perfect. God is what you are. Therefore, you are perfect. Now, that perfection can be stifled by negative thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and who of us hasn't had them from one time or another? But that perfection can never be extinguished. It reminds me of the Olympic flame. That goes on for the entire Olympics, and if they didn't put it out, it would still be going on. Negativity is toxic, but if it's eliminated from the system, the disease will be eliminated from the body. It's not about treating symptoms. It's about our ability to see the perfection within. And when we do treatment, and what we know, and for everyone that comes up after service for our 1 minute blessing, we don't focus on what's wrong. Focus on what's wrong. Guess what? That's what you get. But if you focus on what you want to know, what you want to experience, that is the perfection of who you are. And that's what we're telling the universe, the one mind, who we are. And the universe can only say yes. And the universe will affirm that treatment. The 11th principle, we believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. Now, we can control conditions in alignment with natural law. Now, God won't suspend the law of averages so I can win the lottery, though I wish he would. God won't suspend the law of gravity so that that really nice person won't die as a result of jumping off a bridge. That's gravity. That's just natural law. But anything that's contrary to divine good has no power behind it and is therefore subject to change. That is what we mean by the control of conditions. A condition is nothing more than something that's contrary to our divine good, and that we can control. We all have suffered because of faulty beliefs. But when we change our beliefs, we change what we think, and therefore we change our results. That's why it's so important to be mindful and intentional of what we believe. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. That's eternal givingness to all. That takes care of the I'm not good enough lie that we sometimes tell ourselves. And we may not say those exact words, but it's the belief that we have sometimes. It all comes back to cause and effect. Think plenty and receive plenty. All depends on what that plenty actually is. Think lack and receive lack. Now, we're not punished for thinking lack. It's just the logical result of believing in lack. Once we start believing in abundance, we start experiencing abundance. We're not being rewarded. God isn't saying, because you're thinking the way I want you to, or the way I think you should, I'm going to give you stuff. Nah, it doesn't really work that way. It's the law of mind in action. It's the law of attraction in action. Like attract like. As above, so below. As within, so without. We get to choose what's going on in our thinking. We get to choose what we believe. And the law automatically responds. The universe can only say yes. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, our own destiny, for we understand that the life of all is God. Believe in yourself. You are the life of God. Your soul and spirit are eternal. Your destiny can only be unlimited good. And you will realize that good. If not now, later, when you're ready to accept it. It's already there. It's kind of like in a locker. And we have the key, we have the combination. We just have to go to the locker and use the key that we've already been given. This is what we believe. This is the basis of our spiritual practice. And it does take practice. Anna Columbia Holmes, the mother of Ernest Holmes, once said, "Life is a school which all must attend, the same intelligence being in each. It is the task and high privilege of the individual to so develop his God-given powers that he shall not remain in the kindergarten, but may, by practical use of the lessons learned in this grade, lessons of the need of manifesting love, joy, harmony, peace, and poise, Go on to each advancing grade, ever increasing the knowledge and understanding of the one who is in all, over all, and through all. The event called death shall be an open door to a grade beyond this plane, where we will continue to expand throughout all eternity. So let's look at it as each of us are in our own grade. It doesn't matter what grade it is, but there are lessons that are to be learned within that grade to take us to the next grade. And there are lessons waiting there that we can't learn until we learn the lessons of the previous grade. So as we learn those lessons and we advance to different grades, there'll be more lessons, different lessons, but other lessons for us to learn. And that never ends. Even as we leave this plane and go on to our next evolution, the lessons are always there. And are we available to accept them and to understand them and to embody them? Whatever good thing we can imagine is always being offered. The science of mind is about learning to accept the gift. When we expect less than the highest and best in life, we're squandering that gift. The men and women who change the world all understand the incredible power of belief. They also understood that it matters what you believe. It doesn't matter how you believe, and maybe it doesn't matter why you believe. Your beliefs are a tool to serve and empower you. Anyone can believe in anything. Beliefs can empower us or imprison us. Beliefs are that important. And the good news in all of this is each of us have a choice on what we believe. Now, Ernest Holmes' declaration is unusual as religious statements go, in that it's about empowering you, not the church, not the authorities, not any outside entity, you. So I invite you to take home the What We Believe proclamation that was in your bulletin, if you don't have one, to pick it up before you leave, and read it every day for a week, a month, a year, for as long as it serves you. Let its words become your reality. Internalize them and make them your automatic way of viewing life. If you do this regularly, you'll find that you're well on your way to what Holmes says is the complete freedom of all discord of every nature, the discord being replaced by the eternal givingness of life to you. Namaste, and so it is.